Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Sussex County Football Report with Mike and Mark. This is a weekly recap show of all Sussex football. We will focus on all Sussex teams and feature highlights and all the results each week from the New Jersey Super Conference American White and Blue divisions. With me, as always, is my co-host, Mark Brodsky.
Hey, Mike, thanks a lot. This is going to be a very exciting season for all of these teams and for us as we debut this show, this podcast. Great to join you, and hope we can bring some information and a new look for our viewers here with Sussex County football.
All right, great. Well, we're going to get it going with highlights from Week 0, a big game as Sussex Tech hosted Parsippany down in Sussex, New Jersey. Parsippany traveled to Sparta to take on Sussex Tech in the Mustangs' home opener. Parsippany jumped out to a 6-0 lead on a TD run by Dylan Wang. Down 6-0, the Mustangs turned to running back Andrew Baker, who tied it at 6 with an 11-yard TD run. Parsippany followed with their second TD of the day to take a 13-6 lead. Tech answered back with a Brian Gruber touchdown run. The kick failed, but Tech went into the locker room only trailing by 1 point, 13-12. Baker was back at it in the second quarter with a 9-yard TD run and his second of the day, giving the Mustangs a 19-13 lead. And then Brian Gruber punched in a fourth quarter touchdown to seal Tech's first win of the season, 25-13. And it was a big game for running back Andrew Baker. The senior had 234 yards rushing, and he had on 30 attempts, 1 sack and 2 touchdowns. And Brian Gruber added 151 yards on 20 attempts and 2 touchdowns in the big Week 0 victory for Tech.
Terrific win for Sussex Tech, coming from behind there, and we congratulate them as they start the season off. I believe they won 3 games last year, so we're a third of the way. Also had another victory in Sussex for the Pope John Lions, matching their victory total of last year. They finished 1-9 last year. They won their home opener, 16-6 on Saturday against Montclair Immaculate. And they're going to have a much tougher test coming up this weekend against Seton Hall Prep, which is figured to be one of the top 20 teams in the state of New Jersey. That's going to be in the conference. That's, what do we got? That conference, the United White. Tough conference there for Pope John, but they do pick up a victory in game 1 of the season, and looking forward to playing Seton Hall Prep in game 2. So big victory there for Pope John. Now we're going to continue the show with some previews for all of the teams in Sussex County, as well as Jefferson, which is playing a number of Sussex County teams in the Super Football Conference. Mike, why don't you start us off in the American Blue Division with the Newton Braves, always a very strong team, 10-1 last year.
That's right, Mark. They were 10-1 last year, and this is their first year in the restructured SFC Blue. Coach Matt Pizarro is 54-8 lifetime in division play, 99-34 overall, entering his 7th season. The season opener next week, they will travel to Warren Hills, and that's their opening game. Also, big games on the docket for the Braves, September 30th versus Lenape Valley, October 14th. Versus Ramsey, and they will travel for a big matchup against the Spartans in Sparta on October 21st. Key players for the Newton Braves: Matt McClain, Braden Nolan, senior running back, Pasquale Festa, senior linebacker, and Theodore Sibley's, a senior running back, all lead the Braves in offense. The Newton Braves come into the new-look American Blue Division as favorites to win the league, coming off an impressive 10-1 season in 2021. Coach Pizarro looks for another strong season with a balanced offense and led by a very stout defense. So things are looking up for Newton. They're definitely one of the teams to beat entering the new SFC Blue Division.
They have 20 seniors back, Mike, for a team that went to the regional semifinals last year and lost to Jefferson. Nolan's got to be one of the top two-way players in the county at 5'9", 190. Picked up 1,120 yards and 14 TDs on the ground last year. Also had 24 catches for nearly 500 yards and 8 TDs. Plus, defensively chipped in with 4 sacks and tied for the team leading tackles at 84 with linebacker Pasquale Festa, who Parzero calls the heart and soul of the defense. Sibley's a 5'8", 175-pounder, also had 913 yards and 8 TDs. The wing offense will be run by Robert McCullough, who steps in to fill the shoes of 3-year starter Jack Young. He'll have the confidence of working on a strong offensive line, and McCullough can also be a weapon as a kicker. So Newton does look very strong this year with all those seniors back on a 10-1 team.
You know, Coach Pizzera really has to be very confident with all those seniors coming back, and Newton is definitely looking for another strong campaign. Let's kick it back to Mark and take a look at the American Blue Division, and he's going to tell us all about Lenape Valley.
Okay, Mike, we are sticking in the American Blue Division, which has 5 Sussex County teams, along with Warren from Hackettstown from Warren County. Lenape Valley, the Patriots in North 2. They're coached by Wade Pickett in his second season. He succeeded the legendary Don Smolin last year, who retired as New Jersey's winningest coach with 348 victories in 45 seasons. In his debut, Pickett led the squad to a 6-4 season. They made it to the playoffs, lost to Ridgefield Park in a squeaker 22-21. He brings in a wing T offense with some variations, and that will feature senior running back Eric Perez and quarterback J.J. Worthington. Worthington coming back from a knee injury, and from all indications, he has looked strong. The expectations are that they can compete for the division title. They will open with Mountain Lakes, a regional finalist last year. So Lenape Valley does have a good squad. Always nice to welcome back your quarterback, the guy who runs the show in the wing T offense. It's very important to have the good quarterback. There's a lot of ball movement, a lot of faking, and so Worthington is back, and everybody happy to have him back. So Lenape Valley looks strong in the American Blue, but Lenape Valley, things are looking up there for Wade Pickett in his second season. Tough replacing a legend in Smolin, but he did a good job. 6-4, pretty good. Not too shabby for the opener.
And so what do you think about Coach Pickett? Where do you think his main focus is going to be on this offense this year?
He likes the wing T. They run the wing T, and there's a lot of, as I said, a lot of movement with the wing T offense, a lot of ball fakes, and a lot of deking, try to fool the defense. So they're going to keep it on the ground, and they're going to make hay that way. So there's a look at the Lenape Valley Patriots. Now let's get it back to you, Mike, and you'll tell us all about the Kittatinny Cougars.
Yeah, tough to say, but easy to watch. The Kittatinny Cougars, also in the SFC Blue, 6-5 last year in 2021. Coach Joe Catelli, 40-42 in 9 seasons, and their first matchup is going to be next week, September 1st, versus Hackettstown, and that will be their home opener. Other big games for Kittatinny this year: September 10th against the recently mentioned Lenape Valley squad, September 23rd at Newton, and October 22nd against on the road Walk Hill Valley. The Kittatinny Cougars, key players for the Cougars: senior quarterback Mike Serbo, running back senior Chris Casale, and defensive lineman Dan Holt, also a senior. And with 3 starters returning to the offensive line, Coach Catelli has a good protection for quarterback Mike Serbo. And don't forget that he has 2 starters coming back on defense. So Kittatinny, a little bit improved, might be able to improve on their record, a team you might want to keep an eye on. And I think that Coach Catelli has some moves up his sleeves this year for the Cougars.
Serbo's back for his 3rd year as a starter, so you got to like that. He threw for nearly 1,100 yards and 6 TDs, only threw 2 interceptions last year. So, as you said, he'll take snaps behind an experienced offensive line. That includes Isaiah Pirelli and Dan Holt, as you mentioned, on the defensive line. And Casale at 5'7", 145, a little guy, but he also excels on the other side of the ball in the secondary, where he's in on 79 tackles, including 51 solos. He had 3 sacks and had 2 interceptions. So, as you said, things looking up for Kittatinny with some experience. And, in football, I think Mike, I've talked about it for a long time now. It's who controls the line of scrimmage, offensive line, defensive line. So with the 3 starters back on the offensive line, And no doubt those kids are going both ways. So they're going to be strong on the line. And that's a big start for running any kind of offense and stopping teams on defense.
Yeah, well, Joe, Coach could tell he's very confident in this squad, and I look for Kittatinny to be one of those squads that may surprise a little bit. Definitely don't take them lightly. And another team you don't want to take lightly is Wallkill Valley, and Mark's going to tell us all about that team.
The Rangers under Bobby Leach were 4-6 last season, and they welcomed back a dozen seniors. And those seniors feel they can compete for the division crown, including among the returnees. Shane Nugent was the leading rusher last year. He had, 501 yards and 5 TDs. The quarterback is Dylan Bonzer. He's back after throwing for 1,352 yards and 8 TDs. And he's got a top wideout in Chase Laurenkovitz at 6 foot, 215 pounds. Laurenkovitz had 65 catches last year for 858 yards and 5 TDs. They welcome back a stalwart on the defensive line, Jason Fisher at 6'1", 240. He's a senior, and he had 4.5 sacks last year. So they have new offense and new defense. So that could be a problem, when you're learning anything new. I know learning anything new takes me forever, but I'm an old guy. These are kids, so they're going to figure it out a lot faster, I'm sure. But they brought in longtime Butler coach Bob Jones, very successful at Butler, and he's teaching them a new spread offense. This group of talented newcomers, talented performers. And the Rangers are also going to show some new looks on defense. They have experience on the line both ways, and they're hoping that can help shore up some problems defending the pass a year ago. Let's see who's Wallkill Valley opening up with. Let's see, they're playing on Friday, and they're going to play on Saturday. They're going to open up at home against Sussex Tech, the 1-0 Sussex Tech squad. So Wallkill Valley will welcome them at noon. So Wallkill Valley under Bobby Leach, a lot of experience, but they are learning something new. So let's see how they can meld the experience and the fresh new looks on offense and defense.
Yeah, well, Sussex Tech is going to be going up against Wallkill Valley as they travel on the road for their second game of the year. The Sussex Tech Mustangs had a huge victory in their first game of the year, as we talked about during week 0. In 2021, they were 3-7 under coach Brian Stellenworth, and they look to be much improved this year. Key players, as we talked about earlier, Andrew Baker, the senior running back, who had a monster performance in his first game this season, looks to be the star of this team. Also, running back Brian Gruber also had a very big game. So the running game is going to be major for this team. After a disappointing 0-5 showing in the COVID-shortened 2020 campaign, they finished last year 3-7, as we said. But the Mustangs are off to a very strong start with their big win against Parsippany. So they are definitely a team to watch out for, because only a few short years ago, they were one of the stronger teams in the area, finishing 8-2. And that was only a couple years ago. With the COVID shortened years, some of these seasons, it takes some of these teams a few years to get back. And this is a winning franchise and a winning school. So I would look for big things to come out of Sussex Tech this year.
Well, Baker had a good year last year, rushed for 847 yards and 9 TDs. Plus, on the defensive side, he contributed 4 sacks. Gruber is also a very good punter, along with being a good running back. Is a good punter. They got Sean Hall at quarterback, and Daniel Jenke anchors the offensive line, who apparently did a very good job in game 1. It is game 1, week 0, game 1. So off to a very good start for the Mustangs and the coach. And let's see if they can improve on that 3-7 from last year.
Yeah, well, so far it's very exciting with this game 0. 2 local teams came up with big victories. Pope John and Sussex Tech winning really big games, starting 1-0. And now we're going to go to the new restructured American White Division in the SFC. And we're going to take a look at the Sparta Spartans. And Mark is going to tell us all about them.
It's a winning franchise, as you said. Frank Marciano in his 13th year at Sparta. He's 102-25-1. They were 8-4 last season, but they were eliminated in the playoffs by Cranford following a resounding victory over Riverdale, a perennial powerhouse in Group 3, North 3, that is. Sparta can boast one of the best quarterbacks in the state, in Austin Frattura. He's coming off a junior year in which he threw for 2,316 yards and 18 TDs in the spread offense that Sparta runs. He's been the starting signal caller for all 4 years of high school and thrown for a school record more than 6,000 yards in his career, as well as 53 TDs. So Frattura, he's headed for Holy Cross next year. This year, he's going to have one of his favorite targets back in wideout Matt Schweizer. He's also got junior running back Josh Brancy at 5'10", 180, a senior. He's dangerous with the ball as well. Sparta will be short on experience. Just 7 returning starters, but they still look to be the class of the division. Hunter Peterson, stalwart on both sides of the offensive and defensive lines, senior. So he'll be blocking for a very talented group of skill players. So Sparta, things are looking up as usual at Sparta. Always a strong team. They have the veteran coach in Marciano with a very impressive record of 102-25-1. And once again, they look to be the class of that division, the American White, this year.
So let's talk a little bit about Austin Frattura and this Sparta franchise this year. With the rule changes that came in, we're looking at no more regional champions. We're looking at a straight state champion. The schools in Sussex are small schools, Group 1, Group 2, not large schools. What do you think the chances for Sparta this year to actually be the single state champion with Austin Frattura? How do you see them going through the playoffs this season?
I certainly think Frattura is good enough to take a team to that crown, to go all the way. Whether he'll have enough blocking, whether the line will stand up for him. They're a little bit inexperienced. They don't have as an experienced group as they've had before, but they have the skill players. But will they be strong enough on the lines of scrimmage, which I talked about earlier? That's all about. But you know what? In high school football, a really good quarterback can take you a really long way. So I wouldn't count them out by any means. They were upset last year by Jefferson in the playoffs. But it's another year. It's a year later, and I'm sure they've learned, and I'm sure that they may have overlooked Jefferson because they had beaten them earlier in the season, in the regular season, beat them rather handily. So who knows? Even in a big game, they may have overlooked them. But I wouldn't discount them as taking it all the way.
Okay, well, it's great you brought up Jefferson because the Jefferson Falcons are also in the SFC American White Division, and last year they won 7-6. Now, Coach Jerry Venturino is 49-41 overall, and he's in his 7th year. And they will open up at home against High Point on September 2nd. Other big games for the Falcons: September 16th against Vernon, September 30th against the aforementioned Sparta Spartans on the road in Sparta. And on October 23rd, they're going to travel to West Milford for a big battle. Now, key players that we have for the Falcons, Jason Eisel, the running back senior, is back, and he's basically the biggest part of their offense. And wide receiver linebacker Travis Osterhout and wide receiver Jacob Studnick kind of complete the trio for the Falcons. Now, Coach Venturino's squad won an impressive 6 of 8 games to close out the 2021 season after losing to Caldwell in the North Group 2 championship game. Now, the Falcons returned 21 seniors to form an experienced team in the hunt for the title. So I think big things are coming in Jefferson, and it's going to be a very interesting division where you have Sparta as the favorite, Jefferson as the underdog, and don't forget about Vernon. We also have Vernon in the white division this year, and Mark's going to tell you all about Vernon.
I wanted to see when is the Jefferson Sparta game this year? That should be a war, because those two teams, they hooked up twice last year, and as I said, Jefferson won in the playoffs. I got to think that Sparta's going to be over there. So I'm looking at September 30th. They're playing at Sparta. Jefferson's coming to Sparta.
They're coming to 30th. They got a big game. That could decide the division. But then a team like Vernon, if the two top teams take themselves out, there's some other teams in this division who are still, maybe a little up and coming. And Vernon's definitely a team that you don't want to overlook.
Absolutely not. 6-4 last season, lost to Riverdale in the playoffs. They came in with the winning record last season after winning just 3 games total of the previous 2 campaigns for Coach Steve Down. He's in his 5th season. So it is a team on the rise. 8 starters return on offense. And they're led by a quarterback, Derek Lazier, who threw for 1,436 yards and 13 TDs last season. And they have running back Gage Moskowitz, who gained 1,179 yards and had 16 TDs. The defense has 6 key starters back. They include Aiden Duffy at linebacker and a senior defensive back in Rick Healy, who's also a wide receiver. So, as you said, Mike, Vernon, don't sleep on Vernon because they are up and coming. They have all the starters back. 8 out of 11 coming back on offense, and 6 out of 11 coming back on defense. They're a team that made the playoffs after having several down years. So Vernon could be a team to watch in a very difficult division.
Like you said, Moskowitz with 16 touchdowns. This is definitely a team, with a win here and a win there, you never know how it's going to shape up. Last year there were teams that started 4-0, lost 5 in a row, didn't make the playoffs. So this division is going to be very interesting to see who gets the early wins and who gets up, because it's going to be a dogfight the whole way. It's going to be very interesting to see how a team like Vernon kind of translates to this new division.
I'd say one team that's may struggle here is High Point. The Wildcats playing against these several teams, the county teams, the out-of-county teams, even Lakeland, and the other team in that division, that would be West Milford. So they're gonna have a tough time, I think, with coming off a 2-8 season. Now, why don't you tell us about High Point?
Well, there is some optimism for the High Point Wildcats this year, entering the SFC American White Division. As Mark mentioned, they were 2-8 last year, but Coach Austin Caldwell, who was 2-6 overall, he's in his 2nd season, and he's making some big changes for the Wildcats. So like I said, there is a lot of hope, and they don't feel like they're a cellar dweller. So another team that you just don't want to take too lightly. Big games coming up. Their first game, September 2nd at Jefferson. And that's going to show you a lot of what High Point's going to look like this year. They're going to travel to West Milford on the 16th for a big matchup, and then they'll be home against Sussex Tech and home against Vernon on October 14th. Those are the key matchups this year for the High Point Wildcats. They have 3 key players entering this season: Mason Murrisil, a senior running back; Jonah Ripley, who's a fullback and a linebacker, a 2-way player; and Luke Van Orden at quarterback. Coach Orden will introduce a new offense this year that will play to the strengths of the Wildcats. Again, being one of the lower teams in the division, they're really trying to find out what they do well and what they can coach. And Coach Caldwell, practically a new coach, has a brand new offense, and he's going to focus on the ground game for High Point, and they're going to look to improve on their 2-8 record from 2021. So again, it's the beginning of the year. Everyone has positive thoughts. Don't overlook High Point, because if you dismiss them, they might come back and just catch you when you're not looking. So this is a very, very competitive division this year.
So they're another team that's installing the wing T. So
yes.
They're as you said, they're going to keep it on the ground, and they're going to hope that Merkley and Ripley will get the job done on the ground, and Van Orden can complete a few passes along the way. Get the defense thinking about the run game, and Van Orden can hit him with the pass here and there. So we'll see what High Point can do in this very, very difficult division. 2-8 last year.
Yeah, just very exciting. The American Blue and the American White, two of the premier divisions in the Sussex area. But we have a couple other teams that are in some other divisions, and Mark's going to take a look at them, starting with Opakon, who's now in the Ivy Red League.
Yes, and they are moving from the Independence White. They are a Group 1 school coached by Sean Norton. He's in his first year. He's a 33-year-old guy. He was the offensive coordinator at Hackettstown last season after spending the previous 8 years on the staff at Booton, his alma mater, where he starred over there. I believe they won a championship over there. 1-8 last year. They've won only 7 games over the last 3 years and haven't had a winning season since 2014. No playoff appearances since 2013. They're going to try the option offense. They're going to feature Ryan White at running back He's also a linebacker. They're going to try to grind it out, play some tough football, and paving the way on the offensive line will be seniors Austin Reed, Sal Ibrahim, and Matt Latito. So those three, and I hope they're going to bring two others along to block for White and that grinded out offense. They are a Group 1 school, and with some larger schools, but the Ivy division, that Ivy Red division, has schools that have low participation levels. So Hopatcong, I believe, will only suit up about 30 kids. They're in there with, let me check. They're in there with Bergen Tech, Dover, Fairlawn, Indian Hills, Pascack Hills, and Teaneck. So those are some struggling programs, struggling to get the players out. It's football is tough. You need a lot of kids. Most kids are going to go both ways for Hopatcong. Obviously, they're only suiting up 30 kids. So, but they are in a division where they can compete, and hopefully, with grinding it out, they'll be able to put up a few W's this year for Coach Norton in his first season.
Well, it does sound like there's some optimism in Hopatcong. I mean, considering they haven't made the playoffs in almost 10 years, this restructured division can actually play to them and give them more of a competitive playing field, and they may actually have a chance to win a division or actually win a few games this year. So I think there is some optimism in Hopatcong. And another place where there's a lot of optimism is in Sussex, New Jersey. With all these wins, it's really kind of turning up, Sparta, one of the best teams, Sussex Tech in Sparta, and Pope John in Sparta, winning their first game of the year and moving to the United White Division. Mark, what do you think about Pope John this year?
Well, they've matched, as I said, they matched their victory total from last year, 1-9 a season ago under Don Gaston in his first year. So he enters his second year in a much more upbeat way, winning his first game of the first season, first game of the year, home game for them. They do have a very rugged schedule, a conference with Seton Prep, Del Barton, and DePaul, along with Paramus Catholic and Hudson Catholic. But they do have a lot of skilled players. Tyreek Hill is a very speedy and talented sophomore in the run-pass offense, the spread offense that Coach Gaston's going to run. And they also have Wes Johnson, who's a 6'3", 195-pound sophomore receiver who showed a lot of potential. Quarterbacks, they were fighting it out in the preseason. Tyler Hauser and transfer Chris Dietrich are the quarterback candidates there. And they also have a talented tight end in Jahidi Lassane. He's a 6'4", 200-pounder, nice size for a tight end. He's going to do a lot of blocking for Hill and Johnston and the two quarterbacks. He's a junior. Defensively, they have a middle linebacker in Sean Line, who's a talented player, and an outside linebacker in senior Justin Fontana. He's a 6'1" and 200-pounder. They have a junior kicker who's a weapon in Jack Morgese. So things, it's a tough schedule for Pope John, but they, years ago, they were a juggernaut when they were playing in Parochial B under Vic Paternostro. Times have been a little bit tougher, a little bit leaner over the recent years. They do have that difficult schedule, but they have some talented underclassmen with Hill and Wes Johnson. So hopefully they'll get it done. They'll be a little bit more competitive, and they can play with the likes of the Del Bartons, the Pauls, and Seton Hall Prep. But Seton Hall Prep and Del Barton, we're talking about two of the top 20 teams in the state, and DePaul has been tough over the last several years. Paramus Catholic has been down a little bit over the last years after the post-Jabril Peppers years when they had a lot of success. And Hudson Catholic also struggling to compete with some of these schools. But let's see, Pope John, hopefully they can find some of the glory that they had in past years with a talented set of underclassmen.
Well, like Mark said, they were a powerhouse for many years. And this, switch to the United White, it's going to be very challenging for them. But again, getting off to a 1-0 start is a major advantage, especially when you have to play all the tough teams that Mark mentioned. But again, optimism for Pope John. A week 0 win is a huge victory, and they're off to a very good start. So that was a big win for Pope John, and that concludes our preview of Sussex football for 2022. Now we're going to take a look at the Week 1 matchups. starting with Kittatinny against Hackettstown. Mark, tell us what's going on with that matchup against Hackettstown.
So Kittatinny will host Hackettstown. That's a 3 o'clock game on Thursday, American Blue Division game. And on paper, it looks like a dream opener for the Cougars against the Hackettstown squad that went 0-9 last season, has won just 3 games total over the past 3 years. They did lose by 3 to Sussex Tech and 8 to High Point last year, but and they brought in a new coach, Mike Arakilian, to try to turn around their fortunes. He's installed a spread offense featuring returning quarterback Jackson Burke. But like I said, there are no point spreads in high school football. I'm sure that'll come down the line too. But this looks like a pretty good matchup for Kittatinny. Playing at home opener, sky high, against the Hackettstown team that struggled over the past several seasons.
No, definitely an opportunity for Kittatinny to win their first game. What else do you have on tap, Mark?
We moved to Friday. A bunch of 7 o'clock games. We do have one at 6:30, but the 7 o'clock matchup, that looks to be the feature matchup to me for the Friday night games, is Mountain Lakes at Lenape Valley. It's going to be a test for the Patriots. They're going on the road against the Mountain Lakes group that reached the Group 1 final last season and throttled Lenape Valley 34-7 in last year's game. Coach Darryl Fusco has several key players off that squad, but he does have a strong offensive line to pave the way for the replacements led by his left tackle, Dylan Brown. The Lakers still look like a contender in the newly aligned SFC and American Gold Division. But Lenape Valley, a strong squad, 6-4 last year and lost the squeaker in the playoffs. But and they have the wing T with Perez and Worthington. But Mountain Lakes is going to be a very difficult test for them.
All right, very good. So we have some exciting games in week 1. Another exciting game is the Jefferson Falcons, and they will be hosting the High Point Cougars and a very interesting division season opener. Coach Jerry Van Torino from the Jefferson Falcons, again with a 49-41 overall record, was 7-6 last year. But the Falcons went deep into the playoffs last year, and they're definitely one of the more competitive teams. They'll be taking on a High Point Wildcat team, as we mentioned before, that had a 2-8 record last year. But Mark talked about the new offense that's being installed by Coach Caldwell. So again, a very interesting matchup for the first game for both of these local teams.
Interesting matchup. Jefferson, a bit of an enigma last year. They lost, I believe they had a 5-game losing streak in the middle of last season. Then they won a whole bunch of games down the stretch, including in the playoffs. So which Jefferson team are we going to see? They do have a lot of experience coming back. So Jefferson, I think, is going to be a very difficult home matchup for High Point. High Point has to go on the road to play Jefferson, which you got to think, even coming off of last year, has to be sky high. Division game, American White Division. But another good one we got in Lakeland in Wanacue, New Jersey, in Passaic County. Sparta going to travel there for a 6:30 p.m. game, American White Division. Lakeland won 4 of its first 5 last year before dropping the last 5 to finish at 4-6 in Coach Joe Purcella's initial season. The Lancers moved to the SFC after playing in the National Blue, and they look to challenge one of the conference favorites in Sparta. Welcomes back some solid seniors with a talented bunch of juniors. Running back Caleb Paduani will run behind a stout offensive line. So I gotta like Sparta in this one. Lakeland's had a good history of football. I go way back to when this is how old I am. I go back to when former Passaic High School football coach John Federici, who coached the likes of Jack Tatum in Passaic. He coached Lakeland after his Passaic tenure, but I'm old. Nobody really cares about that. But I like Sparta. You got to like Sparta in this one. A very strong squad, and they're the class of that conference. I think Frank Marciano's group. So I'm thinking Sparta's going to win that one, but Lakeland will put up a test. We're moving on to Vernon. Friday night matchup, 7 o'clock. Going to host Morris Hills. Morris Hills opened the loss to Verona after going 3-7 a year ago under Coach Mike Sabo, now in his 19th season. The Group 3 Knights, they compete in the SFC Liberty Blue Division. They're short on experience, having only 5 starters back. Center Cal Labello anchors a line for an offense that features the run-heavy wing T. We've talked about the wing T. Defensively, linebacker Matt Leslie and lineman Brady Gabe are the lone starters back. Morris Hills and Vernon haven't played since 2019. Good news for Vernon, since Morris Hills have won the last 5 games, nearly all of them handily. But Vernon, they look to be a little bit stronger this year. Morris Hills has had a good program, but Vernon coming off the playoff season a year ago at 6-4, losing to Riverdale in the playoffs, and with an experienced group back led by quarterback Derek Glazier and running back Gage Moskowitz. They're going to put up a fight against Morris Hills, I think, here, Mike. Okay, we have another game on Friday night, a 7:00 start. Newton will travel to Warren Hills to play a Warren Hills team that was 6-4 a year ago, losing to Sparta in the first round of the playoffs following a couple of mediocre seasons. Marcus Gurdinier, now in his 3rd season as coach, engineered the turnaround for the Blue Streaks. Great nickname. Blue Streaks, love that. And now he welcomes back 8 starters on offense and 5 on defense. The key returning on offense is quarterback Luke Dugan, a senior who passed for 876 yards and 10 touchdowns a year ago. So looks to be a pretty good matchup there, Newton and Warren Hills, Mike.
Well, Coach Matt Pizarro's team over his 7-year stay, 99-34, 10-1 last year in 2021, coming into the FFC Blue Division. Definitely one of the mainstays and one of the favorites this year. But again, going to be a very good matchup for both teams.
Yeah, I like the Braves in that one. Even going on the road, I'm taking the Braves.
No, I think you're right. And I think it's going to be a very exciting season. We kind of looked at the whole picture with a very good idea of what's going on. And now they just have to play the games. So we're going to wrap this up. Go ahead.
We got 2 more games here, Mike.
Oh, we do?
On Saturday. We got 2 games on Saturday. Wallkill Valley playing at noon against Sussex Tech in a American Blue matchup. We talked about Sussex Tech's big victory in game 1. Wallkill Valley, we had their preview with Coach Bobby Leach, 4-6 a season ago. That one should be a good matchup. You always gotta like the home team, Wallkill Valley, but the home opener sky high. But Sussex Tech has a game under its wings, and they got to be pretty pleased with running. What they've run for like 400 yards in that first game.
Well, yeah, they did. They actually, if you probably add it up, it's very close to 400 yards, and they were coming off a 3-7 season. But Coach Brian Stellenworth, 11-14 over his last 3 seasons, and again, these COVID years, they were 0-5 in 2020. So you have to take those numbers with a grain of salt. And again, they were very impressive in their first game, and they look to continue that throughout the season. So, and then we have one more game, right, Mark?
We do. We have Pope John going to visit Seton Hall Prep, what they're calling the Rumble on the Raritan. I believe that's some kind of tournament. I don't know what's happening there, but this is a United White game. We talked about a very difficult schedule for Pope John against Seton Hall Prep, considered one of the top 15, 20 teams in the country, perennially strong. They won last year's matchup 51-7. I think this is a much better Pope John team, much more skilled. But Seton Hall Prep is quite the adversary here. They won their first game 32-27, rallied to beat Del Barton in a battle between the United White Division foes. Their quarterback, Liam Londergan, threw for 303 yards, 3 touchdowns, including the winning score with just 24 seconds left to complete a 60-yard drive in about a minute and a half. Mason Mack and Julius Vicari are among his favorite targets. Coach Bill Fitzgerald's club went 7-4 last season, including a victory over much heralded Don Bosco Prep, a loss to the state's #1 team, the Bergen Catholic, and 2 one-point losses to another powerhouse, St. Peter's Prep. So Pirates moving into the United White from the United Red. Not the best news for Pope John, but let's hope Pope John a little bit more skilled this year, revamp, second-year coach in Don Gaston, and they can get this done. One more note, Opatcong doesn't open its season until Friday, September 9th, when the Chiefs play host to the Fort Lee Bridgemen. Go figure why Fort Lee is called the Bridgemen. Why is that, Mike? Right by the bridge?
I thought they should call them the toll guys, but that's a good
right by the bridge.
Or the
we'll talk about that game on next week's Sussex County Football Report with Mike and Mark. Mike has a few awards he's going to give out. for this week's game.
Yeah, so that's going to end our preview on all the Sussex football teams for this year, and we're very excited to go into the season. And we're just going to recap and go with a couple of outstanding performances from week 0. Only a couple of games on the docket, but the player of the week for week 0 for the Sussex Football Report is Sussex Tech's running back, senior Andrew Baker, who ran for 234 yards on 30 attempts, and he had a sack on defense, and he popped across the goal line 2 times to lead Sussex to a 25-13 victory over Parsippany. And our team of the week is Pope John with their big win against Montclair Immaculate Conception in Sparta, 16-6. So our team of the week is Pope John in week 0, and we're very excited to go into week 1. And we will be here every week, Mike Warsaw and Mark Brodsky, as we continue the Sussex County Football Report. Mark, you have any closing words?
Hey, Mike, 2-0 first week. Got to be pleased for the 2 Sussex squads who won. County looking good the first 2 games of the year. Playing some hard-nosed football they play up in Sussex County. So looking forward to a great season. Looking forward to working with you for the whole season. And just want to thank our producer, Matt Gizzi. And I look forward to a great season and hope the viewers enjoyed our debut, the debut of the Sussex County football season. And we look forward to seeing you for the rest of the year.
Well, that sounds great. I'm Mike Warsaw. He's Mark Brodsky. Join us next week for all the action on the Sussex County Football Report. Have a good day, everybody.